Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I made any kind of commentary video, so I thought I would bring it back. For today, we've got some stories that I plan on reading that were sent over on my Discord. But before we get into that, this video is also a bit of a tutorial to lead up to a future video for the Arsenal Night Edge event. With that out of the way, let's get into it! Alright, so, this first story is called The Cabin Anomaly. Our friends and I were given a new task from our boss to claim a bounty. Another easy target, based on the description. We took the job on and sought to find them. Some intel from other hunters led us to a stray cabin located deep in the woods. Little did we know, there was no target. The moment we set foot in the cabin, I felt chills. My heart racing, we pressed on and began our search. The only notable place to search was a worn-out trap door that was angled slightly on the floor. The remaining doors in this stray cabin were either locked or boarded up. Some teamwork, we swung the trapdoor open and headed down the stairs. The basement reeked of rust and mold. Shelves covered the walls in front of us, with various objects, mostly weapons. A fairly sizable round table sat in the center of the room, with chairs circling it. A deck of cards sat in the middle, with a drink near each chair. A fairly small TV sat in the back corner, the sound of static filling the room. What set us on edge was an old radio, which played the same ambient music over and over again. We had a feeling our boss sent us in a death trap. This room was the only thing that we could spend our time in. The trapdoor locked and blocked off, the fear was setting in. We attempted to call our boss several times, each attempt leaving us unread. After a heavy sigh, we sat at the table, and I started shuffling the cards. The whole room suddenly went silent. The static playing the TV suddenly had a very dim image playing. A dark masked figure situated in the middle of the display, staring at the room. "I see you're all seated," the figure said. The voice was very deep and raspy, almost gasping. "Let's play a different game. One with different rules and pieces." The trapdoor opened, and another figure entered the room, holding an object in their hands. My friends and I set our cards down and focused on the approaching figure, as they set a revolver on the table. Our hearts started racing as the figure left the room. In front of you is a standard revolver. You will each point the barrel at yourselves and pull the trigger. You may also spin the revolver if you wish. If you get shot, you are out. This repeats until there are two of you left, in which case, you will shoot at each other until one person remains. If you do not pull the trigger within 10 seconds, you are also out. May the luckiest win. The TV went back to static, and the radio turned back on, playing that same ambient music. Hands shaking, my friend across from me went first. His grip on the revolver's handle tightened as he brought it closer to him. He checked the chambers to see how many bullets were in the revolver, in which there was one. He closed up the chambers and spun the cylinder. After some hesitation, he cocked the gun, pointed the barrel at his head, and pulled the trigger. Nothing. The tension left his body as he let out a heavy sigh. He passed the gun to his left. Nothing. Left again. Nothing. Another pass. Nothing. I started sweating as the guy next to me cocked the gun and pointed at themselves. They pulled the trigger, and then again, nothing happened. It was my turn to take the shot. My hands were shaking as I spun the cylinder and cocked the gun. I held my breath as I pointed the gun at myself and pulled the trigger. The gun had fired the bullet. My grip around the revolver loosened as I fell to the floor. I could barely feel my heart beating and I couldn't breathe, yet I was still conscious. I should be dead. How am I still alive? I thought, as I watched my friends continue the roulette, then hit me as they kept pressing me on. They were dropping to the floor one by one. The smell of blood became overpowering. The last two kept passing the gun back and forth, each avoiding the last shot with each click of the revolver. I started blacking out as the last shot rang out and the body hit the floor. The last thing I heard sounded a lot like an alarm before the room was filled with silence. Cold sweat and heavy breathing, I jerked awake and looked around me. I'm back home. But how? I thought, as I got out of bed. I have to dig deeper. There's no way I should be here. I approached my desk and opened my laptop, beginning my search. The only research I found that caught my interest was a short video that was published recently. I clicked on the video and gave it a listen. Anatomy Log 23. The Stray Cabin. Psychology studies have shown more and more patients have been having dreams taking place in the woods, the stray cabin in the distance. All the subjects have entered and ended up in a deadly game of Russian roulette, either winning the game or dying first. If they end up dying in the dream, they are forced to watch other participants play before they start waking up. Some have said they felt either a throbbing pain in their chest and or stomach, or a pounding headache afterwards. Do note, if you had this dream recently, you're in the presence of a stray anomaly that has been broken out of the facility. And that anomaly goes by the tag it's behind me. Well then, that was quite the story we got there. We actually got 2 more following up that. So yeah, let's get into the next story. This next one is called An Arsenal of Problems. It's a bright new day, and it's your time to shine. That phrase is what gives me motivation. A quick look at the calendar. Today's June 24th, 2021. Tournament day. Let's hope this month is the one. I thought as I got out of bed. I started getting ready for my day and preparing myself for this year's participants, having low hope for myself. Walking into the arena, I spotted last year's champion, a player that goes by the alias of Brute. I knew everyone here would refer to each other by alias, since it showed signs of respect to one another. But I cringed at the fact we even had to come up with an alias for each other. I walked up to the sign-up list and saw that Brute had just finished signing up. He turned around and smirked. Well, trying again, delinquent? He chuckled as he stared me down, attempting to intimidate me. I'm feeling lucky this year. I grabbed the pen and signed up for the tournament. Brute just shrugged as I started heading to the locker room to prepare myself for what was coming. I went back to the main lobby after getting some protection and waited to deploy. Attention all participants. The tournament will start in 5 minutes. Head to Sector 4B for rules. The announcer went off and all participants started moving. I quickly followed behind to catch up before I got locked out again. Just as I reached the door, Brute smirked and started closing it. Not today, I thought as I rushed forward, tackling him in the process. We were separated as he started putting out his trusty tomahawk, and I started pulling out my dagger. You know I could have taken you in a fight, Brute sneered as he pulled away from Dealer. Overly confident as always. I sighed as they didn't let me go. We all got seated and waited for the tournament's rules. Alright, welcome to the 2021 Arsenal Summer Tournament. You know the rules. There'll be different weapon pulls per round per match. First 33 wins. If you die, well, you'll get revived and then you're out. Point counts if you get your opponent downed. A downed opponent is when they can no longer manage to fight and need to catch their breath. You will automatically gain a point when you down your opponent. Finishing headshots are considered illegal plays and are forbidden. If you manage to get a finishing headshot, that is an automatic out. And a melee downs or backstabs will cause your opponent to get 1 point deduction. Return to the locker room and select your melee, then be ready to deploy. Are there any questions? Trooper then looked around the room. Brute then raised his hand with a bit of a smirk. Yes, Brute. What will the final round be this year? I've heard you've been working on a project with the animatronics and Slaughter, Brute asked. Yes. There is. We've asked them for a bit of an extra challenge for the final round, and they managed to recruit a familiar face. Trooper then turned his attention to the door. We all turned around and had little expectations. The color drained from my face when I heard a maniacal laugh. You remember Hackula, right? Hello, kiddies! I'm so happy to be here again. It gets so boring just being an announcer for a whole year, Hackula exclaimed as he burst into the room. All of us weren't looking forward to the final round, if we were a finalist. I was deployed against Performer on Tuscan, with standard weapon pool. We know this place like the back of our hands. I gotta be cautious. I thought as a gun in possession. I heard a bullet zip by, close to cutting my cheek. They managed to find me. I gripped my weapon harder as it quickly peeked around the corner. They were aiming with their sights down, where I was. Based on the design, I knew they had the Sakura. Every matchup, they have a damage advantage, but I have them outnumbered on firepower. I thought as I began aiming. I had them in my sights, and began firing. Round after round, I was winning. I was getting closer and closer to my goal of being a finalist. The semi-finalist I was putting up against was Dealer, very skilled and had a very good sense of dexterity. This round will prove to be a challenge for both of us, as it was hard mode weapon pool on Matrix. Dealer was ahead of me by 3 downs, and I had a bow while he had the muscle nugget. I drew my bow and prepared to fire when Dealer was in my sights. I saw a small sliver of white near a stack of boxes a little ways away from me. I set the bowstring go, and the arrow shot out. Dealer was heading right into the perfect spot. He dropped as the weapon and collapsed as the arrow struck his chest. Back and forth, Dealer and I were downing each other to the point where I was getting exhausted. We were both on the golden knife, just needing one more down. My heart was racing as I saw Dealer approaching fast. He jumped around me and swung near my back. He barely scratched me as I swung to attack him. He glided across the stomach. Dealer managed to get behind me again and held his knife against my neck. You're improving, but you're a little slow. That was a good game, Delinquent, Dealer whispered. Good game, Dealer. I sighed. I loosened from Dealer's grip, went up behind him and swung, the blade digging deep in his back. Clever boy. Blood started dripping from Dealer's mouth as he collapsed. Adrenaline was still flowing through my veins as I headed back to the locker room, close to limping and fainting. Brute was blocking the locker room door, arms crossed. He shook his head and sighed, pointing at the infirmary. You'll need it. Brute sighed as he stepped away from the door. He's planning something, but he's right, thought as he entered the infirmary. Some rest helped out quite a bit. I was feeling a lot more energetic. The final round was in the mist. I was leading by a few eliminations, but Brute was being quite aggressive. He's got more melee eliminations than me, which has set me back a bit. Just as Brute downed me again, I heard laughter. Alrighty, nerds! Let's play! Hackler exclaimed. Blood drained from my face as he rushed right at Brute and slammed against a nearby wall. I fled the area to get somewhere safe, with an emergency medkit. I hid behind a wall as I watched Hackler play with Brute, as if he was nothing more than a stray toy. He started coughing up blood. I have some time, I thought as he used medkit. I relaxed a little as I peeked around the wall. Brute was against the wall, unconscious. I got up and started figuring out what the next step would be. All I could do was run. Heckler had been trying to get me time and time again, close. With his few successes, I was getting more and more exhausted. He had backed me into a corner. I anticipated what he would do to me. Well, you're pretty evasive, Delinquent. You remind me of another player, one who isn't normally seen here much, Heckler said as he grabbed my shirt. I didn't want to say anything. They went into these tournaments every single chance they get, to the point to where it was close to killing them. Heckler pulled me closer and looked directly into my eyes. I didn't like where this was heading. To be fair, they were pushing it a little. Oh, and one more thing. You won, Delinquent. Heckler smiled, but I was just dumbfounded. How did I win? I didn't beat Brute by downs, not even by little, I thought. Well, this was a nice chat. Would you like an autograph on your coffin? He then pulled me close, grabbing my head and bit down hard on my neck. His fangs pierced through as I felt my blood being drained. I started falling unconscious as I heard the announcer go off and Hackler tossed me against the wall. After some recovery, I went home with this year's prize, a small trophy, and $12,000. I knew I wouldn't go back for a bit since I was feeling really crappy and very drained, physically and emotionally. Getting home, I set the trophy on a shelf in my room and flopped into bed. Next year. You can hold off until next year, I thought. Bit of an Arsenal-themed story, but still, it was actually really good. Now then, let's get on to the last story. Isles Island. Silence. The only thing that keeps me sane. This facility has been holding me here for the past month, which each day comes more and more testing. I'm exhausted. I would occasionally catch glimpses of the most recent project, sending an anomaly to an island with teleportation. At that moment, I was sitting in my holding cell, anticipating the arrival of guards. The moment I heard my cell open, panic set in hard. Guards stepped in the cell. One holding me still, the other took out a syringe, injecting some contents into my blood. Blacked out immediately. I started waking up, expecting to be in the testing lab. I was stretched onto a stretcher while being taken to a transfer area. Am I finally going to be released? I thought, as the straps were taken off. I got off the stretcher and started following the guards. They were watching me cautiously. The guard to my left handcuffed me as I stepped onto the transfer ship. A small feeling of doubt and hesitation grew as I sat on the wooden bench and lowered coffins. As soon as the guards surrounded the area, the boat started moving. Hours went by with long silence, and a sudden jerk forward, the alarm sounding. The guards fled to the deck above me as my heart started racing. Then a jerk, then a crash. The impact threw me to the floor, and I fell unconscious. A strong odor woke me up. It was harder for me to breathe. I looked around and quickly fled to the upper deck of the ship. A fire was spreading, and fast. I jumped down, landing on the soft, grainy ground below. Sand? Am I on the beach? I thought, while brushing the sand off. I took a good look around at my surroundings. I was on an island. I soon found a beacon that had been activated, a watch, and a lantern. By noon, I was pretty set for the night. I just had to find shelter and food. I stumbled off into a fenced area with generators placed around the grid. A small booth in one of the corners had a fuse sitting on the desk. I wonder what this is doing here, I thought as I picked up the fuse. Turning on the generator, only 2 lights turned on, showing what was powered. Only the observatory and the generators were drawing power. Is this an observatory? I thought. By late afternoon, I found the observatory. It was fairly old, but had some modern additions, most notably some monitors. There were a few logs, but most of the information got corrupted. I skimmed them until I found a log written in August. I paused as all the information was there. I started reading the log while writing it down in a journal that was sitting near the monitor. August 14th, 20XX. A recent breach has brought panic to everyone. We suspect it's from the anomaly. Nevertheless, recent tests have proven subject G1XX to be available to the island. If we can get them to the facility in time, we can test the teleportation. The shared access code is 1, 8, 14, 16, 22, 24, 27, 30. Try what you can to keep the subject away from the anomaly. It was getting closer and closer to nightfall. A strong presence was getting closer and closer, rendering me vulnerable. I eventually found a cave, planning to stick to the right as to not get lost. Turning on the lantern seems to be my only savior from this presence. Cave walls started shifting to concrete as they got closer to a doorway. A facility. Maybe I can get out of here, I thought. I entered the doorway and wasn't greeted by much. A portable access panel sat on the desk next to a medkit and a small pack of rations, only enough for 1 meal. I sorted everything into a backpack I found earlier and headed deeper inside the facility. Down the stairs, spiraling until the ground ran flat. Another room with a single hallway, a small vent on the ceiling about halfway through it, and a door leading to a new area. Something about this seems off, I thought as I stepped into the hallway. Both doors closed, as if the room knew I was coming. On the other side of me, I heard buzzing growing louder and louder. My heart raced as I saw blades approached. I slipped to the vent, using what strength I had to get it open. Then grabbed and I dropped to the floor. The saw blades close to a foot away from me. I quickly jumped in and watched as the vent grate got torn to shreds, sparks flying everywhere. That could have been me. crawled through the vent as a feeling of drowsiness started to overcome me. A quick look at the watch. The time was 11:45 p.m. I should really rest for a while. I jumped down once I saw an opening and headed left. I paused as a small sheen of light caught my eye at the ground. A wire? I peeked around one of the walls where the wire sat. There were explosives, mounted near the tripwire. I took a deep breath, reached around, and pulled the plug that connected the two. Hope this works. I stepped forward and heard a snap, the wire breaking. Nothing happened. I gave a sigh of relief and set down my backpack, using it for a pillow as I lay down to rest. A cramp in my leg forced me to wake up. It was a new day, yet I couldn't see the sun rising or get a deep breath of fresh air. Making my way back to the hallway intersection, a stray door caught my eye. It was locked, and I needed a key card to access it. I took out the access panel from my backpack and attached it to the keycard slot. A long string of code appeared on the panel with some various characters on one side. The left side of the panel screen cleared away as an encryption key appeared, numbers surrounding a white box with 4 sets of numbers on the right. I had no idea how the panel worked, hoping I would be able to crack the code soon. An hour passed, then 2, 3, 4. I lost track of time, but the numbers lined up and the door opened. The security console sat in the room. I pressed the little button, and the security system deactivated. A sigh of relief left my body, and I went down the hallway. I started hesitating as my stomach growled. I got to sit down and eat. I should be fine if I stop for a bit. Right? Thought. I sat against the wall, concealing my location, and pulled out the rations. While incredibly stale, it did help to know I was safe and able to eat. I only had about a third of the rations. It didn't satisfy my hunger, but I had to keep moving on. Packing up what was left, I got up and continued down the hallway. At this point, I lost all sense of time and was feeling drowsy. I soon heard a snap, and my heart sank. A tripwire activated a dart trap. Several darts stuck into my sides, back, and limbs. My body started going limp as a sheer, burning pain took over. Several hours went by. I slowly woke up to see darts in my backpack gone. With some panic, I checked my pockets for the journal to find it was still there. I have to move. I got up and began my search, having low expectations. 2 adjacent rooms caught my eye. One room had a fairly large control panel, the other having a very large circular frame. I approached the control panel. It was asking for an access code, as it turned it on. Digit by digit, I entered the series of numbers in my journal. As soon as the last digit was entered, I heard a faint whirring sound. I ran to check the room with the frame, and there was a portal. I couldn't believe it. Finally, I can leave, but why do I feel so drowsy? I thought. I made my way through the portal, hoping to get out. Log X. The portal was a trap. This whole island was. I knew something was off when they sent me here. Only now, I brought the thing they feared right to them. It's a bloodbath. Until then, I just have to keep telling myself that it's just nothing more than a burning memory. And that was the last story. Honestly, I would love to read more, but this video is getting a bit long. But nevertheless, hope you enjoyed. And don't forget, you too can send some stories in over on the Discord. Be sure to like, subscribe if you are new, and I will see you in the next video. Peace!